wanted to talk today, possibly start a series of talks on the way in which we each have access directly to God by any name. Eckhart Tolle uses the word the unmanifested, which I've always enjoyed because it talks actively about our function as conduit through which the unmanifested might manifest in the world. And Jesus, who clearly had access, served very beautifully as a portal through which this unmanifested came into the world. He is quoted as saying, "I am the way, the truth, and the light, and only through me could one come to the Father, come to know God." And of course, that's a misrepresentation of what he was saying. Of course, the Bible was written many years after Jesus walked in the world and offered his example. But in more modern times, via A Course in Miracles, he speaks directly to this relationship and offers that this relationship is available to everyone. And this makes perfect sense. Always in my studies, whenever I came across any teacher, so-called prophet or whatever, who would claim to have exclusive access to spiritual knowledge, I knew that that individual was misguided or dishonest. Always, I knew in my heart of hearts, in my intuition, that the access that I had was available to anyone. There was nothing special about me. There's nothing special about Jesus. There's nothing special about anyone, regardless of the stature that the world might establish for them. Again, just remembering how unconscious the masses were in ancient times, it's easy to see how a particular portal through which this light, truth, beauty, light manifested, they would make of that individual something very special. And the key in our time, and certainly the key for my own personal destiny, is to show, demonstrate that what was extraordinary in our new consciousness is ordinary. So, in fact, anyone who would enter this era, this new earth consciousness, will do so because they choose to access this truth, beauty, power, light, and it is available to them. So that will distinguish those members of this new era of our evolution as a species, Homo glumulus. Homo glumulus will be multitudes of individuals who access this light, who access this voice, who come to know God. Okay, I know God through experience, and that's how we come to know, not believe in like some fairy tale. Know directly, know. And came in what Jesus demonstrated, and hopefully what you see me demonstrate, and many others. I was just listening to David Hoffmeister. He's a very clear, bright light through his teaching of A Course in Miracles. That this is has become more and more ordinary. You know, again, via the technology that we've developed as a species, Homo sapiens, virtually anybody in the world today can access this radiant, energetic truth via a variety of speakers, via, written communications, pretty much all information now is available worldwide. And I've always believed that there will be, in the very near future, an even greater sort of download, accessible to greater and greater numbers, because the key is that certain teachers, masters, will have the ability to translate this into something very easy to digest, very easy to access and digest. Like I've talked before about telling my daughter, explaining to her how a green leaf of a tree receives the energy of the sun, translates or transmutes that energy from the sun into life, oxygen, water, food. In this same simple way, we are called to be translators, transmuters of the spiritual energy that comes from God, the unmanifested, very similar to the sun. It's just the source of energy, this continual outpouring of energy, truth, beauty, light. So as we answer the call, again, the unmanifested seeks us. Okay, remember in my story, those who followed some of the talks where I was telling my story, I was 21 years old, a student in university when the voice first sought me, asked me to consider a radical proposal that I would leave the comforts, the world that I knew, and follow the guidance. And I did. So today, decades later, it's easy for me to understand, to receive, to translate this voice so that others could more easily, without upsetting their lives. That wasn't the only reason I had to make radical turns. It's just because, again, of the interference patterns that were running in me that were very strong from my childhood, from my karmic burden. So it takes time to undo those for me, and maybe for others in my generation who grew up in a very conditioned way. The conditioning telling us that we were to deny and project our divinity onto some extant God, whether you're one version or another of Christian, or, almost all the religions would have you deny and project your divinity elsewhere, to some teacher, to some version of God, to some Messiah. Incorrect information, limited information. It wouldn't work in a society that requires people to be dumbed down for them to become awake and free and realizing they could live a life that's totally different than what was being offered to them. So this is the crossroads we are at as a species, as a world, that the choice is becoming clearer and clearer, being offered. Remember, I talked about that Luciferic principle. There's a dystopian nightmare being offered as, this is the reality available to you. But then there's others like me who are saying, no, there's another utopian dream, heaven on earth, being offered. And you can choose that. And by choosing heaven on earth, you're choosing to open yourself to this voice for God that's coming through me. You can accept my translation or some other translation, but the key is that any real teacher would point you toward your own divine abilities, that you have the ability yourself to receive this divinity and integrate that divinity into your energy body. We talked about biodanza, your divinity, creativity, affectivity, sexuality, vitality. That the key is for us to receive this divinity and integrate it with our human body and person, and demonstrate in a very simple, easy way how we can fully know God and fully participate on earth as humans. This is our this is our new evolution as Homo spiritus or Homo glimianus. We become this thing